lag on the last video, I wonder. We're going to try it again for this one. I hope, I don't know, maybe it'll help equalize things out with the background noise. That's one of my big things. There's got to be a way for me to fix that. I don't really have any video editing software or anything like that yet. And even if I did, I wouldn't want to put too much extra time into doing what I already do. So anyway, today's philosophizing topic or moment of discussion that I want to hear more from you guys about in the comments section is the rise of automation. And essentially, over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of uproar and fight for rights as far as workers for big companies like Amazon, and the way that they're basically being treated like robots. And with that being the case, why is it happening? What's the solution? And just discussions on that line of logic, and then some correlations as well. There's what I want to try to do is I want to try to tie in the fact that Uber, as far as an investment, and I guess I need to disclose that I don't own any of this. I have clients that own this stock, but I think Uber is a very, very long-term, 7 to 10 year kind of investment play. If you look at what Amazon is doing, so first let's kind of like give a foundational understanding of what's happening. So in one of my past videos, I talked about the need for automation in the trucking industry, the fact that there's not enough drivers to truck the goods, to transport the goods. Of the drivers available, they need to be paid, they need to be fed, they have to adhere to regulations of how long they can drive per day, whether that's 8 hours, I don't know if it's state to state or what, but and so you've got this kind of amalgamation of companies trying to increase profit by cutting the fact that they would have to pay a driver, and the fact that they can't ship goods quick enough because it's all dependent on the labor market. And since there's a shortage of qualified drivers or people willing to perform that job, it all adds up to this trifecta, perfect storm of a catalyst to encourage companies to find and produce a driverless system of transportation for the trucking industry. Okay, so that's been going on for years. And the same is true with the assembly line, everything, right? We've seen it in manufacturing. The more automation, yes, the downsides are it displaces workers. The upsides are it makes goods cheaper and more affordable to a broader range of people and consumer. So essentially, Amazon is trying to automate a lot of its workforce in the sense of its warehouse workers to replace them with robots. Having a robot drive down the aisle, go up the shelf, pick out the item, drop it in the basket goes and gets dropped on a thing, and then it gets packaged. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory that eliminating someone earning minimum wage, and let's just say for posterity in the future of this video, it's $15 an hour nationwide. That's a pretty good clip of money per day per worker, and then on top of that, workers have rights. Of course we do. From mandatory break times and lunch times. So the robot doesn't need any of that, and it can work 24/7 for the most part. Short of being, having downtime to recharge and things like that. But the idea is there. So here's a big tech, a big company like Amazon that has massive incentive to automate that side of its labor force in order to increase profit margins and maintain the hold, maintain its grip on the market share, which it does have the lion's share, and it probably will for a while because it's able to invest what it has into cutting edge technology. And even now, we see terrible conditions for not only those warehouse workers, but for those drivers as well, delivering goods and packages to your doorstep. And from the perspective of somebody who knows people who have driven for this company and worked in the warehouse of this company, you know, these headline stories about what's really going on is not far from the truth. I mean, having to pee in bottles and, you know, there's like no leniency in clock in and clock out times. I mean, it's pretty authoritarian when it comes to the way that the workers and the laborers are treated. So what does it mean? Why are they not bending on this system when so many people are suffering and their turnover is so high? Well, because it's the end game that a company like Amazon has in mind. The end game is to automate those processes. They don't care about the person in that role at the time, because that person is going to eventually be replaced by a robot, by automation. And so while it's a good thing for goods to be cheaper, especially with where our economy's at now, and to become more competitive in the world economy, I mean, let's face it, America is in the fourth stage of Ray Dalio's book. I mean, we are on the downfall. We're poor, but we're acting rich. China owns a lot of our debt, and you know, all of this stuff about social justice and gender and who can use what bathroom and all that stuff that's going on right now really just serves to distract us from what's really happening, and that's the American economy is failing. You know, we're losing manufacturing jobs overseas. We're losing all kinds of things to outsource labor, thanks to globalization. And it's not to argue against any of that. All of that is a good thing. It just means that we have to adapt, and we have to come to accept the terms of the changing times. Well, as wealth and power of corporations is accumulated into the hands of the few, it leaves others behind that could potentially do it better. And so we're seeing, you know, the high turnover and terrible treatment of drivers and things like that, because this big company, you know, they have the 10-year plan in mind, the 20-year plan in mind, and the end game. They know what they're trying to accomplish. And if the system and the rubric is in place for the robots to improve upon, and the automation system to improve upon once it flips over, there's going to be much less bugs and issues to work out. Things will be much easier to smooth over, right? And so that's kind of what we're seeing there. At least that's my take on it, right? Like, that's my hot take, I guess. And I think that a similar sort of thing is playing out with companies like with Uber and Lyft, in the sense of Uber years ago has even stated that it plans to be automated, and it even plans to have like a trucking arm. I mean, that's why it got into Uber Eats and delivery and things like that. So they are all of that data, all of the pickups and the drop-offs, all of those are recorded, right? It goes into storage, and it's all going to be ran through an algorithm and AI, and they're going to figure out like what is the best, and it's all being tracked and monitored. So as soon as automated vehicles become a thing, they just got to take this template, this raw data of all the trips and all the pickups and drop-offs and deliveries, passenger behavior, driver behavior, traffic behavior, aggregated because it's over years and years and years, and then they're just going to be able to postulate it out. Now, there's a lot of good that can come from this. Again, cheaper goods, more stocked food shelves, no need for drivers. Like, the time is now, right? If we could do it, we would, and we should. And it's scary to hear because, yeah, there's a huge portion of the U.S. economy who, the U.S. job force who are truck drivers. And that's their main source of income, and they will have to adapt. And that leads back into another conversation about universal basic income, which I've done videos on, which people talk about. And that could lead into another discussion about, centralized cryptocurrency, government centralized currency. And if, it can have a time limit on it. Like, if you don't spend this universal basic income check by the end of the month, then you're just going to lose that benefit, bye money. Or if they can control what you spend it on, then they can control whether or not you advance, up and down out of, it's essentially going to be a caste system all over again. But that's not the point of today's video. The point of today's video is that with Uber, and we'll talk about Lyft as well, but I can see Uber being a company that automates what they're doing, and it's great. Having an automated taxi style service for cheaper is going to provide a lot more people with the ability for transportation that they didn't have before. And what's wrong with that? There's nothing that's wrong with that. And Uber trucking lines and blah blah blah, like all of this is going to come to fruition. Uber delivery, all of the good stuff, man. All of it will make the future that much more of a utopia to live in. And so that's the positive side of it. Lyft, on the other hand, I still think Lyft is a long-term play, but they're going to be like luxury. Lyft is luxury. And they are going to focus, Lyft is like specifically going to be upscale, like service of, bringing you a nice, almost tailored vehicle that matches what you want, and of course what you can afford, to help you to and from work or just whatever. Now, again, all of this is going to help increase production. If I was able to read a book instead of listen to an audiobook, and actually read a book and take notes and do my little book tabs and things like that. Let's see if I have, like when I read a book that's important to me, I tab it up and I have it marked and all of that, so that when I come back later, so if I could actually do that for the hour that it takes me to get to work, that would be phenomenal. Or if I could have some kind of more space to, sleep, could be nice too. That would give me more time with my family, instead of having to allocate my sleep hours just strictly at times I'm at home. Or it could give me the ability to actually work more. So anyway, Lyft is luxury. Uber is going to be strictly, they're just like very tech and just very to the point, get it done. And, you know, I think that's going to be okay. When the automation happens, we've just got to be very careful. And the only reason I say that is because, like, I spent 2.5 years doing Lyft and Uber both as a way to start my LLC. And I mean, I sometimes I enjoyed it, and sometimes it was the bane of my existence. I really thrive in a lot of environments where I'm able to talk face to face with people. I enjoy people's stories. I enjoy, you know, the face to face like interaction with them. And, you know, that will be one element that is lost, is that level of customer service and being able to get that intimate with somebody. I mean, you know, even if it's something as brief as like waiting tables, you're still, you know, you're a part of the experience for somebody, whether they're on a date or they're on a business lunch or, you know, simply a night out just to have a good time. It's an intimate experience, and there's definitely things like, you know, when I was a bellman, like that's an intimate service as well. You're handling people's personal belongings, sometimes even helping them, you know, so you get to know people on a different level. And it's sort of the same thing when I would do Uber and Lyft, and it's almost interesting the cultures that were cultivated strictly based on perception of the company, maybe on their logo, on a lot of different things. But, you know, the fact that Lyft was always a little bit more expensive made it so that you kind of expected better customer service. Uber was more of the economical choice. And whenever I myself as a driver would give an Uber ride versus a Lyft ride, you could feel it. Like, you could tell that the passengers getting in my vehicle for an Uber ride were very just straight to the point, A to B, don't really want to talk with me. But when people got in for Lyft, they were there for the experience. They wanted to have a conversation with you. They wanted to hear my story. You know, why am I a driver? Why am I blah, 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 blah? And you're not going to get that with a lot of the automation. So I can definitely see something like with Lyft being the luxury service that it is, there might actually be, you know, somebody who is there, an actual human who oversees the operation of the vehicle in case it breaks down, who is there to, you know, pour you a beverage or help something out. I mean, who knows how cars could be reimagined and transportation could be reimagined if it's automated, you know. So lots of fascinating things to think about there. But I think that, you know, if we're going to look towards automation as something that's inevitable, and it has been in the past, and so we can't sit here and hope that it doesn't happen. It will. It's going to be a matter of, can we answer the ethical questions before we get there and before we cross that bridge. So I would like to hear what y'all think on that. Yeah.